I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs flow. I'm gonna turn all of my stones.
Rock bottom make a man and some pressure make a gemstone. Trying to put $1 to my name like Creflo. Naja boy, late to the game, it's in the blood flow. And I'm from the south, it's thick skin and tough bone. Big attitude through big lips with gusto. Trust no kings, that's why they tried to crush souls. But it's IGBO, when the dust blow, this old head be standing there. No silver, just gold. Crack no books on the hustle, I was born to grind. Yo, scared of your potential, I'm adorned with mine. 30 times around the sun, man, of course I shine. My legacy will not dwarf with time. And in my daughter's eyes, it's basic, I must not say quit. Every day sees a present like a Rob St. Nick. Walk a fine line between tenacious and patient. I can't slip, I'm fighting clocks and they can't win.
I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs flow. I'm gonna turn all of my stones. I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Who that soldier in the mirror? Oh, oh. I'm gonna turn all of my stones.
Impeccably I flow, hardest raps you know, breaking status quo, reaping what I sow, artistry like Van Gogh. Get it from my mama, hip so thick that I need tempo. Personality, spicy body banging like a bongo. Cause black women been it since Timbuktu, since Pharaoh. Sponge rollers and hot combs, lips, cheeks and brow bones. If you ain't for the culture, then please stay out of my zone. These little dummy rappers could never grace my headphones. See, I'm from a place in space where ain't no storytelling, you just had to have been there. If you want the battle, ain't no problem, say where. I got so much experience, I can't even play fair. But I'ma keep evolving and growing and hurting feelings and showing. You need endurance to go in, I got mileage on this pen. I've been busy cause I've been out here schooling all these kids. Took 3 decades to have this glow up that I did.
I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs flow. I'm gonna turn all of my stones. I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Who that soldier in the mirror? Oh, oh. I'm gonna turn all of my stones.
Little boy, you should be in your father's arms tonight. Little boy, today the darkness stole your light. And oh, little boy, this never should have happened to a boy. A little boy, I'm sure you're glad it's over, but our hearts are broken without you here. And I heard your mama crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. There ain't nothing that I can say. Little girl, your presents wrapped, they're waiting for you. Little girl, this house so still, so sad without you. Little girl, this never should have happened to a girl. A little girl, you need to know we're sorry, and our hearts are broken without you I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. Oh.
if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly! Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Arthur.
Oi, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh, you wanna get sued?
Judgment, Astrid.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, father. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another Raw narrative. And it's so good to see you guys today. Thank you all for being here on this late night Lady Freedom show. Like I said, guys, we're going to try to be working in some more daytime shows, but I did stay up quite into the afternoon hours looking at some things. I cleaned up my email a lot. And then I also gave some reaction hearts to people and things like that too, because I had revisited some of my old emails that, I remember receiving in the Sebastian Rogers case. And then also kind of reviewing some of the things in Devlin's case, which I've been down quite the rabbit hole on Devlin's case as of lately. And uh, he's the reason for the title tonight, if I'm going to be completely honest, which I try to be. You can't ignore once you see something, deliberately ignoring something that you know to be wrong. And examining the consequences of that is what I want to talk about tonight. And it really rings true in Sebastian Rogers' case as well. The evil was ignored, right? We know that Sebastian was going through a lot in CPS reports, in the counseling reports, right? That I honestly don't think should really be public knowledge, because Sebastian's still a minor, for one. And so I think that keeping that close is a good idea. I also think that a lot of times victims are misunderstood in the way that you don't always have a perfect victim. Um, the victimology speaks for itself when we see these patterns in family dynamics. And I want to examine some of those because I can't ignore them, or maybe I won't ignore them. But I know that I've been catching a lot of shade because of my opinions on Devlin's case. And it's been no secret that from the very beginning, I keyed into certain elements that were involved with his disappearance and just his life in general, right? Because if we fail to examine that piece of the puzzle, then we're going to be missing out on a lot of key indicators and clues that can help us find Devlin. Same goes for Sebastian. Getting in depth with things is a whole nother level. I just don't think that I have that expertise. Now, maybe an expert opinion would be welcome if somebody examined those records, like say our friend Chris McDonough, or someone like that, right? That would be someone who I would trust to do that. But even ethically, I think he would probably decline to do so. So I do think that public knowledge is very helpful. And I did deep dive into some court records. And what I found was that there wasn't one person surrounding Devlin's case that didn't have a very concerning background. And even Devlin's caregivers at times were very questionable. And the fact that all of this is available on the Michigan courts websites is concerning because that same court allowed for Devlin to be involved in that family in whatever capacity. I'm not saying that they didn't try and place Devlin with one of the family members that wasn't in trouble. But when everyone in the family damn near has horrible charges that they've been convicted on, it's a major issue that I cannot ignore, that I will not ignore, and that I don't think it's fair to turn a blind eye to that. Right? My eyes are wide open, my ears are wide open, my brain is working. And it always will be. Thank you, Little Miss Sharon. The interview room with Chris McDonough. Great stuff, guys. Great stuff. Our friend Josh, that's how I know about Chris McDonough. Other than, Summer Wells' case is pretty notorious when he goes to the dungeon. Hey, Shadow. And what an interview. What an interviewer. Hey, Miss Ann Reynolds. Good to see you. Also, Chuchi, thank you so much, Chuchi, for always being here. And Indigo is here. And I see Leslie, Keeping It Real, is here. And Witchy Mama says Lady Freedom is in the house. Good to see you, Witchy. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to be dealing with some tough topics tonight, right? So I'm not going to show you guys. We're not going to deep dive into the court documents just yet because I'm going to compile them into a more consumable form. Hey, Gail, because I realize that it is boring and I'm a little nerdy myself that way. And I do like to deep dive into court documents. And I'm like, let's get some coffee and talk this out, right? And go over every detail. But I think it's just safe to say that Devlin didn't have a chance of having any type of positive role models to go after, to model, to know what is right and wrong. As far as I know, Gordon and his wife Tasha were a good influence on Devlin, and we know that there was something that happened in that regard where, you know, Devlin kind of, and being that he didn't have anybody to guide him, you know, a lot of times when you are abused, you don't know how to receive help, right? You trust the wrong people. It's the damnedest thing. And you would think you would have a better and more keen understanding, and you do develop that as you go and as you get help and counseling. But at first, you almost cling to what you are used to and what you know, and when that happens, the unsafe places feel safe. They feel safe because that's what you know. And so when you get that familiar, warm, fuzzy feeling, sometimes it's not a good thing because you're actually just going back to old habits, but you don't know that, right? And especially when you're a child. I know Devlin's not a little boy, and I don't really care what others think of my opinion on this subject because they can just turn my podcast off or never watch it. But I would appreciate anyone that is talking out of turn that they at least do some research first, because otherwise you're just embarrassing yourself, right? Hey Gail, good to see you. Also couponing. I wanted to just shout you guys out really quick. I know I do that a lot, but I just love to have you guys here. Hey Valley Gal, good to see you. And Hope Floats is here. Hey Hope. And thank you guys always for the green hearts and, you know, prayer hands. And Chi Chi, thank you. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? We got on the thumbnail, Harmony Montgomery. We have Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, Devlin Lee Hatfield Tate. All of these people were failed in one way or another. Gabby Petito, just for me, again, knowing how it feels to be in an abusive situation and trusting evil and not ignoring it, and what are those consequences? Gabby lost her life. That's the consequence. Crystal McCrory Jones, the same way, you know, and it's up to me, who didn't die over it, to speak about it. And I always will. I always will. Little Jaden Spicer, Jack and Lily still missing. Summer Moon Utah Wells, Michael Monkey Vaughn still missing. Emmanuel Haro still missing. Rebecca Park and her son is still missing. Rebecca has been found, but that baby is still out there. He is still out there. I heard they were going to name him Richard. I don't know. Hey, Mama, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Welcome in, guys. Hey, Bo, good to see you. She says I spaced out. That's all right. No big deal. Hey, I'm glad to have you guys always. Don't ever feel bad if you come in late. You know, don't stay in the bushes. It's good. Come on out and, you know, or be in the bushes. Sometimes I'm in the bushes because I'm doing other things, or, you know, I'm multitasking and, you know, not doing a great job of it. I'm a horrible multitasker, but, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the elements that we are seeing in the court documents. So when I was doing a search, we already kind of know that there are RSOs in the family, but then they're also in other parts of the family that we're not aware of, because in Devlin's case, it's difficult because of his big family. And there's nothing wrong with having a big family. As a matter of fact, I saw a picture today that somebody had sent me of Devlin with his family, and it was a very nice picture, and it just kind of almost reminded me of like a camping trip that I might go on with my family. I don't know if they were camping or just cooking out. I don't know, but it was very reminiscent of just a regular, wholesome family, right? That you would never expect. Contrary to what my deep dive brought me to this morning into this afternoon. And so I just want to preface it with that.
I also want to say that this is not about attacking the family. What it's about is deliberately ignoring something that I know is so wrong, 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 wrong. And I will never feel sorry about that. I will never apologize for that. As a matter of fact, I will always stand for that. So I am sorry if I do not always say what everybody else wants me to say. I am always going to stand up for the victims, and I believe that Devlin is a victim of circumstances, of family, of his own doing, right? And so I think that it's a very sad story that Devlin a very sad life that Devlin lived, but I also don't ever want to overshadow all of the good things and all of the good people that Devlin had in his life because that wouldn't be fair. Because I've talked to some very good people that I know were in Devlin's life and that cared about him a lot. And I'm not even going to ever come up here and say that anybody or any one of us could care more about Devlin than his own family does because we have been looking into any resources that we haven't that we haven't expended, right? Like in terms of getting more flyers out, right? So even I had got a text message from Tina and she asked me about the Aware Foundation. And I said, Devlin's got a flyer from Aware Foundation already. And she's like, oh, good. But like, we're thinking in the same way, right? So she's working resources to try to just, get more flyers out. And I told her, I said, I'm going to also send another flyer to the DNR, just a friendly reminder, but just little things like that. I think that we can do little things like that, and it could be a really big thing if somebody was unaware of Devlin and all of a sudden they saw him walking around or they saw someone who might have resemble him. But just so we know that people are out there and you know the sightings are always very disappointing when it turns out not to be that person. We've learned that in Sebastian Rogers case together, but a lot of us are kind of aware of that as well with the true crime community. And that's another thing too. I always want to encourage everybody to ask questions, and I had a really good conversation or, just the email correspondence with one of my good friends. And she was telling me about, back in the day, you used to have these conversations in the libraries and, in the bars and all of this. And now then it evolved into online forums. Now we got YouTube and TikTok and all of these places where we can discuss ideas. And it's never a good thing to stifle conversation, right? It should be accepted, and we should all want to join in and feel like we can participate. Because what if somebody who has the answer is too afraid to say it because they don't want to get bullied or harassed or stalked or heaven forbid just somebody say really something shitty to them, because that just ruins somebody's day and they don't want to do that, or maybe they don't want to rock the boat but they have the answer. We can't stifle that. So we have to continue on and always keep an open mind to ideas, and questions are the best, right? Questions can lead to answers, and sometimes somebody didn't think to answer, ask that question yet, right? But it was a question that was right there. I think about that in Devlin's case all the time. Is it something really big that we're just missing? Is it something really big that we're just missing? Hey, meow. So while I was looking into different people in Devlin's family, there was a lot of sexual abuse taking place on children, cruelty to animals, a real nightmare of a list. And like I said, we're going to get more into it, but I just wanted to kind of brace everybody for that. And I also wanted to give Tamra the opportunity, since she's very much into, trying to get sympathy, to reach out. She has my phone number. I went ahead and gave her my phone number, because I have some questions as well, about some of these court documents that I found. So if she would like to reach out and, answer some questions for me before I present it, I would appreciate it. But she doesn't have to. I will present it nonetheless. All of these documents are public. And so with them being in the public, all you will have to do is put the information into the correct boxes and press go, enter, return, whatever, right? And so that's what I've done. And that's what some other people have been doing. It takes a long time to go through everything. And though Devlin had multiple charges on him at the time he disappeared, which I cannot ignore again, I'm not going to ignore that fact. I'm not going to ignore any facts, because every single fact is a clue, right? As long as it's a fact, it's a clue. And so if it's proven to be true, then I think it's worth looking at. And I think it's worth at least putting it into, one side or the other, right? Where we're going to say, okay, we're going to consider this with this theory and this with that theory. In Devlin's case, there's so many theories that it's kind of nauseating because we do have the dynamics with the family, and there are people within that family that would hurt other people. It's just like when we look at the Proud Feet and the Foot Clan, right? There are people in that family that have no problem hurting a child, no problem having cruelty to animal charges, no problem having a shootout at a gas station and then the police lose the footage. Catch my drift? So you could be at the gas station and you could have your kids in the car, and one of these psychopaths on the Bower Sox Foot guy clan could shoot up the gas station, and then all of a sudden, oopsie, there goes the footage. Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. Oh, well, hot damn. Right? Luckily, it didn't get to that point, but don't you think for 1 minute that they're not going to cover their own asses? That's the corruption in Sumner County. That is the corruption in that area, Hendersonville, Gallatin, right? And it's a crying shame. It really is. But I'm here to tell you that in Devlin's case, we don't have that element of organization and money like we do in Sebastian's case. And we also don't have corruption within the Ionia County Sheriff's Office, in my opinion, and in my experience with dealing with them. I don't see any type of corruption like we're seeing it in Sebastian Rogers' case. Because if I did, I would expose it, right? Because I'm not going to deliberately ignore something that I know to be wrong. And that is exactly what we're seeing happen in Sebastian Rogers' case. But we're also seeing that in Devlin's case, because we have other creators out there, and I want to always get Devlin's information out, so the more the merrier. But when you have another creator out there that is saying, well, I'm not going to deal with, I'm not going to think that the family had anything to do with it, because they want to use the family for information. If the family can't see right through that, then I'm sorry, but I'm always going to be honest. You might not always like what I have to say. For instance, this other creator is now telling everyone that the reward fund for Devlin should be sent to Sabrina. And posted all of the information in order for people to donate to her. And then we have a $6,000 reward through Mary Much, apparently, according to Mary, right? But all of these people still trying to grift off of the back of Devlin when he's missing. That family doesn't need money. They will not use it in the right way, in my opinion. They will use it in the wrong way. I had to pull the GoFundMe for Jessica as well. Hey, Shauna. So, I mean, it is unbelievable, Gail. And Leslie, I was amazed. And she doesn't even know that Sabrina took the reward. Chuchi. I mean, it's just not going to do anything to throw money at this situation. We have active search and rescue right now that is absolutely trying to find Devlin, right? It's counterproductive to start that, because anybody that starts with that again is just reopening a wound. It's like as if, I skinned my knee and the scab was there and I just ripped that frigger off right there and made it start bleeding again. Like, what the hell is happening, Brenda? It's, I mean, I'm like a nut lately with these cases. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think, because they're just, it's just one thing after another. And then I go looking into Devlin's case because I was thinking and trying to add up, how much time he was really looking at. Would Devlin be like hiding out at some, some house where they allowed him to? I mean, he was looking for everywhere to stay, guys. He was asking people, can I come live with you? 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 So maybe somebody finally said yes. And he's like, I got to hide out. You can't tell anybody where I'm at. I mean, $6,000. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure a crackhead would probably, out him for that. But I mean, what if something happened? We just don't know. So we have to look at every avenue. Every single avenue, and I'm open to getting information from anyone. I can't show my entire email correspondence just yet because I'm working on something and I don't want it to be outed, but I did want to assure Tamra that she's not the only one that I'm looking at, because she's not, you guys. I just want to make that completely clear that Tamra is not my only area of focus. Like, ooh, I think you did it. No, if I thought that, I would be after her every single night. I don't think she deleted the text messages, or excuse me, I call them text messages. I don't think she deleted the posts off of Devlin's page. I really don't. I really, really don't, you guys. And so I just want you guys to know that I really don't. And just so you guys know. But she had sent me an email on January 2nd, because I sent her an email and I was telling her about how I think I was telling her, and I have to go back and look again, like I said, but I think I was telling her about the video that I made for the intro and just for the new year, like of all the missing or people that were found, like Jesse Farber. And I wanted to let her know and send her the link for that. Because again, I'm not against Tamra. But she was upset with me that I had not spoken to her in a month. And it's because I've been working on some things behind the scenes and I'm not focused on her. So the thing is that if you don't hear from me, sometimes it's a good thing that I'm not bugging you, right? If you hear from me a lot, maybe then you should side eye. No, not really, because there's a lot of people I talk to. But I mean, and maybe it hurt her feelings, and if it did, I'm sorry. I did not mean to do that. but I have got to be honest with everyone. In order to find Devlin, that's the only way we can do it. And if I don't put it out, somebody else is going to put it out. So, there's that. Somebody's going to do it. I don't know about the pew pews, Brenda. I do not know about as far as, because I think I read a post where somebody had actually asked either Sabrina or Tamra about that, and maybe even Matt answered that question, because Matt had been answering some questions too. But they said no, that he didn't have access to, any type of firearms, to my knowledge. Sabrina said he'd like to pretend like he had, that fake, excuse me, the fake one, and then he got in trouble with it, and then because you have to be very careful if the police think you're pulling that and they tell they stop you, and that could be a very tragic end that was not expected, if you're not careful. So, and another thing too that is really worrisome is that, sometimes people who are on the spectrum, they don't always do well in a public setting, right? And then sometimes if the police aren't aware, because there's no outward indicators that they have some kind of an issue there, it can be dangerous for them, right? Like to go out and then do something socially awkward, and then it could be dangerous for them. It could be dangerous for any of us to do something socially awkward, right? Especially nowadays. Thank you, Shauna. I appreciate you subbing up, girlfriend. That's cool. No, thank you. I appreciate your support. And you guys, anybody who just comes here and listens, and I like I like that you guys hit the like button. I am gonna do some crowdsourcing though for when I go to the Gathering of Voices for Sebastian. So, but a lot of that will be also too, because I want to do posters and all that kind of stuff. So that'll just all go into that. But I'm going to make a video about it. So, Shauna, it's a sad case. It's a sad case, it really is. It's like, well, you know what, Chi-Chi, I wish that I would meet people in better circumstances, but the thing is it's a tough situation because, I'm sorry, but we're just not dealing with the nicest people. And I can't help that. And they probably don't, they obviously feel the same about me, but in the same way, it's part of figuring out a solution is kind of knowing everything as things are going, and as things have, are, and that's what's, very important for us to remember is facts are clues, and that's it. It's not it's not personal. So it appears that we have guardianship that was transferred over according to court documents of Devlin. Let's see, as early as, and this is just a guesstimation, until I can get everything in order. But about 2016, there was some events that happened in the beginning of the year. So it would have been 2/29/16. There was there were some hearings scheduled in the months subsequently leading up to the appointment of guardianship to Gordon and his family taking Devlin in. Right. And that continues on with 52 events. And that is leading to all the way, I'm still scrolling. Sorry, guys. To 3/23/22 was the last event date here, right? So that explains a lot, and that corroborates what we heard from Brandon Orman. So shout out to Brandon for being honest. Thank you, Brandon. Forgot to mention that the other day that, anytime I've ever talked to Brandon, he's been very straightforward and honest. I appreciate that. So we took a look back there. And as I said before, I do think that the courts were trying to do the best that they could, keeping Devlin in his same environment, his same family, that sort of thing. It's very disturbing, Gail. It's very disturbing. And it's sad because this is who Devlin was learning from, and then he was just developing his own set of issues. And as I said before, there's a lot of finger pointing back and forth, a lot. But there's some truth in the finger pointing, right? But then nobody can really take a step back and look at themselves and be like, hey, I did also have a part in this, right? So we are going to see, the finger pointing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just like when Sabrina said, well, hey, Devlin's mom wasn't the best influence on him. That is true, but neither were any of them, in my opinion. Right? And this is based on what I'm seeing in the court documents. So subsequently, we have Devlin getting into trouble as well, as a result of some of this back and forth, right? So we have a court document that involves Devlin, and it's always William Michael Doherty, right? William Michael Doherty is the judge, and this is the judge that continued to make the calls in Devlin's case. I know, they just moved him around, Leslie, and it's so sad because I know that it was like, it wasn't like anybody wasn't trying to do the right thing, in my opinion. I mean, unless I find out, something different, or unless, as we're going through this, examining this stuff, that something comes to mind. But I think that, they were kind of trying to keep him within the family, but nobody was able to keep him long. And again, sometimes when you're abused, you don't realize a good thing when you have it, so Devlin was kind of, and he's also growing and learning himself. So we have a probate, Berry County probate. It would be 4/18 of 24, and it closed 7/17 of 24. Right? So we have April to July. And within those time periods, we have some goings on, right? Petition for adult guardianship, right? Devlin is trying to the best of what I can see here, and I have a bunch of windows, guys, so I apologize, and I'm just kind of trying to go over it with y'all to get an idea of what we're going to be talking about to come. It appears that Devlin was petitioning the court to kind of be on his own in terms of guardianship, right? And he did have a guardian ad litem, as we heard from Sabrina when she was discussing this with us. So that looks to be corroborated on Sabrina's end with court documents. I will always do that, by the way. I listened to people. I gave Sabrina a chance to speak. I thought the conversation was a good conversation. Um, she was polite, respectful. I was trying to be polite, respectful with her. Um, and it just is what it is. But that is corroborated now also with this court document. Hey, CJ. Yeah, thank you, CJ. Yeah, it is. It's very important. Devlin's case just hasn't gotten, the exposure, but it's because I think he was 18 when he went missing, almost 19, just shy of his 19th birthday. So I do believe that that comes into play, but we also have to remember that Devlin, does have special needs. So, and I mean that with the utmost respect to Devlin. So he's vulnerable in my opinion. And I think that, he could have used a hand for sure. But thank you, CJ, for listening. I appreciate you being here. And so that was during that time period. So we have, excuse me, we have 21 events, and these are spanning, and I'm sorry that I'm not going in order in any type of, I'm kind of going backwards. I just want to make sure we kind of have all of it. Because the most recent probate is going to be right before he went missing, right? He had emancipated himself, type of a thing, from anyone having guardianship over him, or control of his money, or receiving money to give him care. And I just want to point that out. So then before that, as Sabrina said, she was appointed, it looks like, guardian. This says Sabrina Cook. That is her married name. Attorney representing Heather Michelle Boyer. And it looks like we have the same judge again. I just want to, keep on reiterating that, because you're not looking at the documents, but I'm just not ready to show them yet. And I don't know if we're supposed to look at them straight from the website. I have no idea, but I'd like to put them into a more in order format either way. But there's 23 events, as I said, and it starts out that there was proof of service, right? Protected personal identifying information, right? A petition for adult guardianship. There was a notice of hearing on 5/29/24, 2 p.m. So then they did that hearing and gathered some evidence, petitioning the appointment of a guardian ad litem. Okay, and then we also have ordering the guardian ad litem. So that is on April 19th, 24. Right? So it looks like these are kind of running into each other. Right? Notice sent to Sandra. And it looks like Sandra does have a lawyer representing her. Right? And so we're looking at, gaining some custody from Sandra, because it wasn't directly from Gordon. It doesn't appear that way anyway. And sorry, wrong tab. And so it does close out 5/30/24, right? Because Devlin turned 18 on 5/26/24, right? So he was trying to just make sure that no one was going to try to grab him up after he was 18. And I do have a reliable source that has told me this very thing, so that also corroborates what that source told me. Bada bing, bada boom, we're corroborating information now. I mean, it's about damn time. Sorry, guys, it gets me a little excited. All right. So, because, you know, like I said, people have selective memory, the court documents do not. All right. So, we got Oh, okay. Sorry. This was something else that I was looking into, and I don't want to share that right now. And it's not because I just don't want to confuse the situation, guys. It's not because I'm hiding anything. This is all, again, like I said, public knowledge. I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything. Okay, so there was a complaint for support that was put in July 30th of 2018 by Sandra Tate. And there was a dismissal order in order to dismiss not far after, so the next month. So she was complaining that she was not getting money. The party name Agency Placed Foster Care versus the plaintiff, the plaintiff was Agency Placed Foster Care, and the name was Sandra Tate. And without having further knowledge about that, I don't really want to go into it again. I'm just kind of bringing in some of the things that I deep dived on last night. So that brings me to some of Devlin's charges that he was facing and that he had been convicted on. And we know that Devlin was also on probation. At the time of his disappearance, we know that Devlin was supposed to go to court on Tuesday, but he went missing on Monday, right? So missed court, and then there was another court date as well that was missed. So right now, Devlin, to the best of my knowledge, does have active warrants looking for him, but also, you know, the authorities are well aware that he's missing. So, oh, thank you, Shauna. Okay, so there's also Devlin had a couple of other charges that we have not discussed here. And so I just kind of wanted to discuss those. So 12/21/24, which would have been it would have been last year, right before Christmas. Devlin got in trouble for stalking and trespassing. A warrant was issued, and then we have July, July 8th, 2025, right, was another event where, and that was when the warrant was issued. I don't know if he failed to show up to court. This was in Ionia County. Okay, so just pulling that up as well. So this is where there was a payment plan deleted. And I remember hearing that there was a payment plan deleted, and I was like, okay, maybe because he's missing. But that was deleted just on 8/4/25. So just recently deleted. So he was charged with a misdemeanor. And then it looks like he did have both charges of stalking and trespassing, right? And that he had been convicted since there was a payment plan. Looks like he was paying some restitution on that. And again, I do remember either Matt and or Tamra telling me this. I believe it was Matt. And without the receipts, all it looks like is victim blaming. So once I have this receipt, I can corroborate that evidence accordingly, if that makes sense. That's how I do it. Hey, Holly S. Good to see you. Hey, Couponing, Super Sleuth. Hello, hello. Oh, and today is Detroit Rock City's birthday. You reminded me, yes, yesterday was Ann's birthday, but today is Detroit Rock City's birthday. And I just want to shout out to our beautiful Detroit. I just love her so much. She's amazing, like all of you guys are. And Ann Brock is here. Good to see you, Ann Brock. Thank you for being here, guys. So, yeah, so we have a lot to unpack with that. We also have okay, this is John. All right. We also have the B&E business, right? The larceny charge, which was from taking money from Tamra in order to pay some fines, right? And so in that way, I kind of want to put everything together in one spot in order for you all to see these documents, understand them, and then we can kind of figure out maybe if Devlin decided to kind of hide out for a while, where would he hide? I don't think it's far-fetched to think that he could be somewhere out there alive and just hiding from everybody and not wanting to come back or deal with anybody. What if he finds a girlfriend that likes him and that wanted him around and that is hiding him somewhere? Right? He's a cute kid. He's a cute guy. Sorry, he's a kid to me. I don't want to say he's a cute guy because he's not my age, right? That'd be weird. I'm old. Nevertheless, some old ladies like young men, and some old ladies are creepy, right? Aw, you guys are awesome. You guys are so great. He was trying to survive, Holly. And then also, let's not forget that Devlin was, SA'd shortly before he went missing by a woman, an unknown person that he did not want to do that with. And that she was basically telling him that she was going to blame him if he didn't do something with her. Completely sick. I mean, what are all these sickos? Very, very disturbing. Very disturbing. Thank you, Miss Anne. Very disturbing. So, also, I have questions about something someone sent me today about Timothy Hatfield. Right? Because it does appear to me that we have a fourth father in question, a man named Eric, right? Guys, we're not sure who Devlin's father is. Devlin Lee Hatfield Tate is his name, Shauna. Or through the courts, it would be searched Devlin Lee Tate. And it's T-A-I-T. Did I spell that correctly? Sorry. Yes, because it's not, it's got an I, not, it's not spelled the other way. Sorry. So he was emancipated, yes, ma'am. And that was that court doc. I'm gonna show it to you guys. I just haven't had, a chance to get it organized for a video. But yeah, we're gonna kind of do a timeline of Devlin's life. I'm also working on a documentary for Devlin. It's just going to take me some time. I want it to be a very heartfelt documentary. And to be honest, the only person that I'm worried about upsetting is Devlin. So if you're watching this, or if you see anything that I'm covering that you don't like, just let me know and I will give you full reign. I'll give you the stage to yell at me on my own show. All right, so we have Timothy Allen Hatfield Jr., age 38. This offense date was on March 27th, 2012. Using computers to commit a crime. Max imprisonment 1 year or less. Original charge. Computers used to commit a crime. Indecent exposure charge. And there was a guilty plea. So arraignment date is 6/4/12. And then the disposition date was quick on 7/30/12. Right? Everything is from 2012 that was sent to me today. Okay, guilty plea entered in Kent County Sheriff's Department, charged with a misdemeanor. Amended or reduced. Attempted, conspired, solicited. Right? Notice restitution fees, jail sentence. The sentencing was on July 30th. And then there was also some charges. It appears to be okay. Let me verify this second piece. I just want to verify this second piece, but I will get it out to, we'll discuss it. And again, that's why I have questions on that, because, he could have been using the restroom in public. Something like that could lead to an indecent exposure charge, something like that. Then again, with the computer stuff, it makes me worried, and especially that we know that there were some deleted posts off of Devlin's Facebook page that have, we still haven't found Devlin. So, I don't know that it was him. Maybe the police are still trying to track that information down. I don't know. Again, I gave the police the information. Tamra, to the best of my knowledge and from what she tells me, has also reported that. All of that information has been given. All of that information has been put out to the police, to the appropriate people, and the family is aware. As a matter of fact, even though I had the falling out with Jessica, I also made sure she knew that I, reported that. Because at the end of the day, guys, it's not personal. It's about finding out what happened to Devlin. It's about being accurate with the story. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. So, no, Bo, Detroit's not in here, but she might be, out for her birthday or something. So, but that is the main gist of. Okay, one more thing that I did stumble upon, that again, I don't know what exactly transpired with this situation, but there was a charge that looked, pretty disturbing. So this was from February 16th of 2024. Jonathan Tate, who is Matt Tate's son, had a court hearing about an animal cruelty charge with animal death, and it ultimately turned out to be only only $150 fine. It looks like some restitution fees were ordered. A total fine of $485, and he was charged with animals abandoning cruelty to one animal, is what it says. And the original charge was, did stick. And again, that was closed on 3/19/24. So, because I was originally looking for Devlin's domestic violence charge against Sandra, but I was unable to find it because it doesn't appear that it's on the record anymore. For some reason, I found everything else plus the additional stalking charge that I had heard about, but I wasn't 100% on without seeing it for myself. All the other ones I had seen before, right? This one somehow, generated up again, or I wasn't searching in the proper places, because there's multiple courts, and then also all of the things that transpired in Devlin's case in Hastings when it came to his placement, that was all done through the probate courts. And that's where that can be found. And so, you can go to, I'll just cite the source. I'll cite the source for this because harassment is different. Slander is different when it's not true. Just so everybody knows. And that's an active link. You can click that link and you can find all of this information if you'd like to deep dive it. But I will be putting it into a digestible format because I think it's very important for people to be in the know. Look, if you want us to invest in this case, we need to know the truth. We need to follow the facts. I know, I don't know, Leslie, this is the problem. Because this is the website that you go to in order to find all of this court stuff. And the courts are who were appointing this child to go to different homes and different places and appointing Sabrina with guardianship over him, and things of that nature. Right. And we have Timothy Hatfield, who it appears that he was soliciting something where he exposed himself, it seems, through the internet. But again, I need to do more research on that. But those charges are what I read off. And that was per the same website. Just a different county search. And it all needs to be told. It can't be ignored. It shouldn't be ignored, and it won't be ignored here. We are always going to tell the truth with receipts. And so this is my receipt for tonight, but I will be compiling this information in order to show the timeline of Devlin's life as it is through the court system, because I think it's important. And I think that's the best information that we can gather from a place of fact finding. And I am always open to hear the family's feedback. I don't always expect a instantaneous response. And I please would urge the family members to please don't expect that from me. I get to you back as soon as I possibly can. But I am also working with different avenues, also creating videos and things of that nature. So I don't always get a chance to check my email right away and get back to everybody as soon as, they send me something. I wish that I could do that. I really do, but I can't. But as I said before, I did give Tamara my phone number, which I have been hesitant to do that. And again, I have to make sure that I keep every single option open because we just don't know. Devlin had a lot of access to other people as well as his family. Gail says, did these counties have their heads up their butts? Devlin didn't stand a chance. I know. I feel like they did. I think they definitely needed to pull their heads out of their rumps, right? I mean, because here's the thing. It's difficult when we don't know about it, right? When it's in the dark, it's like nobody knew that Uncle so and so was hurting the kids, right? Or nobody knew that this was all going on, right? But the courts knew about it. You know, Matt and Lorraine's charges were, I believe, and I shouldn't even quote this because I don't fully remember with all the other information floating around in this noggin of mine. But you know, that happened quite a while ago. We'll just say that. You know, early 2000s ish, right? That there was family, you know, familial molestation. So it's sad, you know. And it's not to hurt anybody that's been through that, or again to rip the scab off, but it's more or less we have to consider everybody in the family that was surrounding Devlin. It's the same thing when we talk about Katie Proudfoot, even though it's not fair to rehash it all the time, but this person who was registered for 99 years, Frances Rosenbaum, was allowed to be around Katie's children, FaceTiming them, you know, and I'm not going to say that she's not going to allow Faith to be around her mother if she's going to allow Sebastian to be, right? I mean, that's fair in my opinion. It's just only fair to assume that. Hey, Tina Girl. Was it just him or others too? Well, what happened, Matt didn't do anything that was caught or, you know, known to Devlin. No, it was done to Tamara's daughter. No, he wasn't. He wasn't, Gail. He wasn't. That is something that I could say with certainty, unfortunately. And because of that normalization and because of people being upset that other people are talking about it, it's turning a blind eye and it's deliberately ignoring something that we know is wrong. And then the consequences of ignoring that type of evil is exactly what we're doing right now, is talking about a missing teenager, Devlin Tate. And let me get a picture of Devlin. So that is Devlin. And he's been missing from Lake Odessa since April 21st, 2024. Excuse me, 2025. Ooh, April 21st, 2025. So he was just shy of 19 years old when he went missing. He has autism. He also has a rare chromosome deletion. He has cerebral palsy. Some fun things about Devlin is he loves to sing. He's a very social person. He likes to be around other people. I've heard that he is very kind, caring, compassionate, able to take care of himself. I've also heard that he could have a temper at times, as we all can. Um, but I've also heard some things about Devlin that, you know, show me that there were definite issues that needed to be resolved. And I don't think that they were anything that couldn't be resolved. I think he would just have to work really hard to overcome what he went through in the past, in my opinion. You know, it is Gail, and they get upset as if we did the abuse, right? Don't you, us talking about it is as bad as us doing the abuse ourselves, in my opinion. You know, and in some capacity, I understand that. In another capacity, I can't ignore it because of what we're trying to accomplish, which is finding Devlin. So we have to consider all of this information. If there's something that I am hiding from you guys that would help you understand the case better and help us put our brains together and figure this out, I would be doing a disservice. You know, again, Devlin was a ladies' man, right? And he liked to talk to girls online. He liked to be a little inappropriate with the females online. Okay. Um, Again, we're considering a 19-year-old boy. And Devlin was trying to figure out who he is and where his place is in the world. In my opinion, I can't fault him for that. And what's even more concerning to me is that he didn't have anyone to help him, to show him, right? And as much as I think that it is very possible that Bill Tate could have been the one hurting Devlin, it does point in that direction, although he was never convicted. So it's got to be always alleged. We can make up our own minds about that. However, Bill Tate is the only man that Devlin had as a father figure in his life. Arguably, for a time period, he had Gordon as a father figure in his life, but the father figure that he always knew was Bill Tate. You know, again, it is what it is. The truth is the truth, and it's just the way it is. And so it's very, very, very difficult to cover a case like this. It is absolutely very difficult to cover a case like this. And like I said, the only person that I agree, Indigo, he looks a lot like Jessica. He does. He looks a lot like his mom, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. He does. You know, and imagine that dynamic, you guys. Devlin grew up not really knowing his mom at all. And then all of a sudden, here she is. She pops into his life, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You know? Who would benefit from Devlin disappearing? That's a really, really good question, Leslie. Yeah, who would benefit? You know, I don't see a benefit, although I will say that shortly after Devlin disappeared, Will Hartman's son moved in to Tamara's house. And I can't shake the text messages, the proof that I showed you from Devlin's own mouth that he was going rounds with Aunt Bean, which is Sabrina, and Will was added into that. right? I didn't add Will into the equation. Devlin added Will into the equation. And that's not to blame Devlin. That's just to say that the reason why I think this is because of Devlin's own words. So anyone out there covering this case, I would advise them to look at Devlin's own words. Listen to his own words. The guardianship. He talks about the guardianship in his own voice, in his own words, on a voice to text. You know? Thanks, Leslie. Yeah. No, great question though. These are the questions we have to ask ourselves. These are the kinds of questions we ask each other. Well, who do we think? I mean, who would you say, Leslie, that would be a person? Because, you know, the only people I can think of would be a family member. But then again, they're really not gaining anything. But then again, every chance they're getting, they're trying to share that Cash App. And whether this other channel shared the Cash App on their own or whether it was given to them, they are heavily misinformed. And that is not the answer, in my opinion. Otherwise, I'm going to say that it seems to me that Sabrina is trying to capitalize on Devlin's disappearance, in my opinion. Right? Oh, Witchy, it's so incredibly sad. Witchy says, I just cry for Devlin. He was failed by multiple parents, family members, the court system, friends, social services, who was actually fighting for him besides himself from a very young age. Yeah, and he's had to survive. I mean, and going from place to place, I can't put it past anybody that didn't take him in and say, okay, yeah, you can come stay with me, right? Not everybody's on YouTube. Not everybody watches the news. Not every, there's not been a lot of coverage of Devlin, in that regard. There now more is happening, yeah, but not everybody's on Facebook. Not everybody's on TikTok. So awareness is so super important, but he might be with someone who's hiding him. We just never know. So we just always have to, explore every option. And not get stuck on a theory. That's another thing that Jessica was upset about with me. I was giving everyone a chance to speak because we need everyone to have their voices be heard. Everyone's side of the story needs to be told. So that way we can understand better. And she's very adamant, as I said before, that she thinks that the Tates are responsible. They may be responsible, but I have corroborated. Again, I went over it tonight already. I've corroborated the story between Matt. One of his stories is checking out via these court documents. Another with Tamara. Another with Brandon. Another with Sabrina. Right? So we're on a positive trajectory of corroborating statements. Aw, thanks, Anne. I am sure you have went down the rabbit hole with those two. Oh, Gail, it's been, and I'm not the only one. A lot of people are kind of helping with that too. Just understanding more, and then us sharing information, comparing notes is so important. Because one person overloaded is not good. When we have information to kind of bounce off each other, it's great. Yeah, it would be more space for them as they're making him sleep on the floor. Yeah, and they did have that whole extra room that they cleared out for his son, but they didn't clear it out for Devlin. Because Will's son was not sleeping on their living room floor like Devlin was. It's the whole family. Leslie, I know. It's my opinion that it very well could be as well. You know, I just want to make sure that we kind of know everything. And again, you know, Devlin talking to multiple people. We still don't know which girlfriend he was meeting at the park that day, which again, that was corroborated. And I do not think that a pastor is lying to me. Indigo says, as much as he loves his family, things were bothering him deeply, so much he felt like nobody was left to talk to him. Yeah, and I mean, or left to talk to. I agree with that, Indigo, and I think that anytime he tried to lean on someone, he couldn't. I know that Adam's mom, Tina, was a good source for him, but they didn't really start talking until a couple months before Devlin went missing. And Jessica was pushing that narrative. Adam is his father. Adam is his father. And she would get so angry, you know, that I didn't want to poke the bear, right? I'm like, I wasn't there. I didn't, you know, I wasn't your friend back in the day. You know, you weren't sharing information. I didn't know you guys in high school, you know, stuff like that. So I kind of took her for her word until we started deep diving into things. But you know, I'm very glad that there's a good relationship there, even if Adam isn't Devlin's father. It's very important, you know, to have good support around. And again, if Devlin's out there and he's fully allowed to be out there at his age, you know, it could just be it could be a situation where he doesn't want to be found at this time. You know? I know, and the couch thing was bad hygiene, but I'm sorry, all of the people, um, you know, haven't had the best hygiene in my opinion either. You know? So to say that about Devlin, I don't think that's fair. Well, they should have got him at least an air mattress or at least, you know, I mean, could you imagine fitting all of your belongings and your bedding in one cabinet, one cupboard? Maybe I'm such a girly girl, but I mean, I'll tell you what, I could never do that. You know, I got way too much crap. So that's just kind of how it is for me. Um Yeah, well, and I feel that, Witchy, not trying to be rude here. If he was catfished, could it have been by a family member who then hid him away somewhere? I don't think that's being rude at all. I mean, I think that that is something that should be considered. Look, Sabrina was alarming the bells a little bit early, in my opinion. 6:30 p.m. She was sounding the alarm bells. That is very strange to me. And then she didn't report him until 10:32. So even if something happened to Devlin, say Sabrina was sounding the alarm bells and Matt was sounding the alarm bells, I mean, Matt could have no guilty knowledge whatsoever. And Sabrina could just be sounding the alarm bells while somebody else is doing something till Devlin until she's ready to call him in missing. We just don't know. Right? I mean, if I look at Tamra, she's not in the best health, guys. You know, Sandra's an older lady at 81 years old. So when I look at those women, I see that they're not in the best health. And I understand that that would be more difficult for them to carry something like this out. And it would just make it impossible for them to carry it out alone. You know, so they were playing mean to him, Tina, but they don't get it. They don't get it. And now they have this weird lady, in my opinion, pushing that narrative that it's okay for Devlin to have been abused. And oh, by the way, give them who stole the money from the reward more money. It's ludicrous. You know, it's ludicrous, and it's not right. And again, we just have to keep in mind that we're a little bit further along, yes. But I just find it to be very odd that this person is okay with all of the things that were done. Right? All of it. And I would just urge people to do their own research. So, you know, I've heard really good things. I will say thanks, Gail, for your question. Does Will or his son have a criminal past? So, Will doesn't seem to have anything that I can find or that I've been able to find thus far. But that doesn't mean, I mean, I haven't really done a huge deep dive either. I'm just kind of starting to do that more and more. As far as I know, Will's son seems to be a hardworking kid from what I've heard. He's a good kid, he's a hardworking kid. And that is only what I've heard from other people. So, because some of the kiddos that were around, you know, I'm not saying that he was around Devlin because I don't think he really was very much. We also have to remember that Will and Sabrina's relationship is a newer relationship. It's not, you know, she was married before. So that relationship is you know, newer. But yeah. I mean, people might have helped plan it. I just don't see like the family putting him anywhere and keeping him alive somewhere. I mean, maybe, but it's not like they're getting any money out of Devlin, and they were already mistreating him because he didn't have any money, right? So that is, you know, just something right there that I have to consider, you know, their behaviors and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody could have done anything. And then, you know, Devlin was putting in for different jobs, in terms of odd jobs where maybe somebody would have said, you know, I have a job out for you. And he says, well, I wouldn't be able to get, you know, there and back walking in time for court. I have court tomorrow, but could you come pick me up or something? Or maybe the person offered to come pick him up and then something happened there. That is not far-fetched at all. I mean, I think that is a very strong possibility. And I've always said that there's some very strong possibilities in comparison to Sebastian's case. There's far more possibilities because let's be honest, Devlin was running them streets, you guys. He was running them streets. And I'm not talking about he was running them. I'm talking about he was running them. Like he was just running around place to place, Carl's, you know, he was going here, he was going to Bob's, he was going down to Buddy's on the beach, he was going over here, he was going over there, right? Devlin was social butterfly running the streets, and then a lot of times he didn't have a place to stay because he would be either locked out or kicked out. Right? And there's proof of that in the text messages from Devlin himself. There's proof of that when Lori, the neighbor, says that Devlin would end up sleeping in her barn. There's proof of that when the parapro says that Devlin shows up to her trailer in the morning with no coat on, saying that he didn't go home the night before and he's shivering cold. In Michigan weather, folks. Cold, bitter cold, lake effect, freezing freaking freeze your balls off cold. in a t-shirt. Well, it's just weird when you try to help somebody and they're so hateful, Tina, right? It makes you automatically wonder if they're guilty of something because they're being so defensive. But, my brain goes there, but then it also has to consider other factors. But it's a weird vibe. It's totally weird. Like I said, that's why I had to shut that other lady up because whether she's being misinformed by Tamara or her own crazy thoughts, and she didn't even check into anything. Um, you know, Tamara said what she said to me. I say what I say back to Tamara. It's not as big as she's making it to be. It's quite ridiculous, and I think it's clout chasing at its worst. Because she only has like 300 people. So I think she's just trying to, bring my name into it so she can get, more views. Gail, I hate asking this question, but did anyone have a life insurance policy on Devlin? Not to my knowledge, and it's okay to ask, Gail. I know it's a tough thing to ask, though. No, and this is the element in Devlin's case that we're dealing with when it comes to the means part, because we're dealing with people who are poorer than poor, in my opinion. Every single one of them is collecting benefits. They don't work, they collect cans. Sabrina does odd jobs, even though Sabrina is very able and, could go and get a full-time job, probably anywhere that would, she's qualified for. She chooses to put ads out in the paper to pick up sticks and rake yards. That's what she chooses to do. Right? And she doesn't choose to get a full-time job or be a good responsible adult or even a good and proper role model for her son, in my opinion. That's what a proper role model does. But because it's not like Sabrina has any disabilities that would prevent her from doing that. She just chooses not to. Right? It's a totally different ball game and situation when you need to be on that stuff, and you have a reason, and it's another to completely say, well, I'm going to go do this one day, go rake some leaves tomorrow, like she doesn't have any direction, goals, nothing. In my opinion, not that she's showing when she has the potential to do it. So no, they don't have anything, and I hate to say it because I think it was kind of a little bit too honest, maybe, but I mean, maybe not, because I'm quoting it. Lori, who says that Devlin was sleeping in her barn, is a neighbor, says that she's known Tamara forever, that her husband went to school with Tamara, and that Tamara doesn't have a pot to piss in, that none of them do. So it's not like they could, do something like take out a life insurance because they wouldn't even have the means. And that brings me to the fact that a lot of them don't have vehicles. Right? And so who has the vehicles also is a really important piece to this. Is it possible he got new food card with a different account number the family didn't know about? I mean, I've thought about that too, Brenda, but I don't think so. And that's the thing too, like even with his social, I was talking today with someone else about the social, and I don't even know if he had that on him, but right off the bat, he would be found if he ever tried to do anything like that. Now, if he was getting paid cash under the table, which we do know that he was, aware of how to do things like that. He could have just went and bought a new burner phone and put out an ad on Craigslist, but I just don't know that he would be able to hold out doing that for very long. Because again, things are expensive and it's not like he's going to be able to be undetected. Everybody knew Devlin. He was very well known in the community. Is another really important thing to remember about Devlin is everybody knew him. So like when he went to Hastings, people knew him. When he went to Charlotte, people knew him. When he was in Nashville, people knew him. When he was over in Vermontville, people knew him. He was just the guy that walked around, the kid that was walking around. I think there may be some more guilty knowledge, Tina. I mean, look, if I didn't want my daughter to go, I don't know what I would do. Let's be honest. We as parents, sometimes we do things for our kids, that we wouldn't typically think we ever would. But when you're in that position, desperate times call for desperate measures, type of a thing. Just like I can't fully fault Sabrina about the reward money, right? Because she needed to fix her car. And when you're poor and you don't have any other way to do things, it's very seductive to have that money right there, and it's very easy to tap into it when you don't have it, so I can't judge completely on that either. I just know that there were community members that I've spoken to personally that have given large amounts to that cause, and they were upset, right? And so I just think that it is pulling a scab off that's already been healing, and just pulling it off and letting it bleed out again. And from somebody that doesn't have a clue. It's pretty it's offensive in my opinion. But I think you're right, Tina. I think that's a good point with the guilty knowledge. So I want to go ahead and just keep trucking along with some of this that I'm putting together for you all. If I do get any type of an update when it comes to the activity on Devlin's phone, I will let you know, but I don't think there's going to be one. I think law enforcement is working on this case. And until I'm informed or, find out otherwise, I'm going to, share that with you as it is. In Sebastian Rogers' case, again, I would just really urge everyone to, do your own research, look into everything. In Sebastian's case, the pooch. Okay, let's just get into Sebastian for just a little bit, guys, because I know we're 2 hours in. But I wanna get into Sebastian a little bit here. Because I think that I need to get my big head out of the way. Here we go. Here, let me put my big head right here next to the fakeness. All right. All righty. So we got the TBI narrative versus reality, right? The Texas Roadhouse video that we cannot ignore, by the way. We can't ignore it. We cannot ignore it. We should not ignore it, and we will not ignore it here. It's glaring us in the face. What was Katie telling Sebastian? What was Katie telling him? That he was about to go somewhere? That he was about to go with someone? Was she chewing his ass out because of what he told the authorities? What he told CPS? What he told his counselor? I find it interesting that there was a lot of truth telling in Chris's statements that we went over on the panel yesterday with Jen. When Chris Proudfoot spoke with Nerdy. And again, I know that there's some misinformation because of coming into a case late. That happens, right? When you come into a case later in the game, you kind of have to learn everything that everybody else is already, in the know about. But in doing so, Nerdy talked to Chris Proudfoot, and I think it's important to recognize that he was telling some truths, right? Like he told Nerdy that the last time he saw Sebastian was in early February when he came out for the parent-teacher conference. And we all know the parent-teacher conference happened because Justin talked about it on a couple of his lives, right? He even had some confirmation from a source that said that Chris Proudfoot got so angry at the parent-teacher meeting because the teachers were actually appalled by the way that Seth Rogers was being treated as the father, and that Chris and Katie were pointing fingers at Mr. Rogers instead of realizing that there was also issues within their own home. Right? And so with that, Chris tells Nerdy Addict that information, but he blames Sebastian, saying that Sebastian was being inappropriate with teachers, that Sebastian was being inappropriate even maybe with Bobby's son's girlfriend. I mean, come on. If you guys can see me right now, I just made a face where I stuck my tongue out and rolled my eyes at the same time. It's ridiculous, you know? It's ridiculous. I wish I knew too, Tina. I wish I knew. All I can do is read the body language. And look at Katie looking at Sebastian pointedly with her palm in the air, like, why? And then we look at her and she's pointing at him. And then she's doing a point where all 4 of her fingers are pointing in his direction. Lip reading, yes. That would be helpful, especially if we had Katie and her face, you know, and I'm sure there is footage of that sort. Excuse me, sorry, I have to move around a little bit. Sorry if you guys heard me moving around. I'm sure there's, because I showed you guys all the cameras in the Texas Roadhouse. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. They're all over, guys. Camera here, camera there, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. The only thing that they have more of at Texas Roadhouse than cameras is steak and speakers, because that place is loud as fuck. Okay. There's speakers all over the outside, and there's just as many cameras as speakers. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what the ratio exactly is, but it's a lot. I think the issues were at home and only at that home. Well, you know, I will say that, you know, when Chris Proudfoot says, well, Sebastian didn't, you know, want to go live with Seth because Seth smokes cigarettes. Well, you know, I mean, last time I checked when I was a kid, my parents smoked, you know, and I didn't like it either. You know, so I mean, big deal. I don't look at that as being like, oh my God, a major issue, right? But Chris was trying to find something. Shit, if my ex-wife was married to Chris Proudfoot, I'd smoke too. I'd be smoking that wacky tobacco. You know, very aggressive body language, Tina. All 4 fingers pointed straight at him. Eye watch up in the air. I'm talking about the corner picture. Look at Sebastian. Look at his feet. Look at his feet and how they are crossed over each other. He looks nervous. And Katie's all 4 of her fingers are pointing toward him. Right? Look at his face and then look at his feet are in the same exact position when she's sitting there with her palm up in the air asking him why. Right next to her big old smiling cheesy ass grin that the TBI wants us to think that she had that day when that was not the case. Look at his feet in both of those pictures. Look at his feet in all of the pictures where he looks extremely nervous. And his feet remain that way while he's picking his nails. And you tell me that kid wasn't walking on eggshells? He looks like he's literally sitting in the freaking booth walking on eggshells. One picture of Katie at the Roadhouse her hair is down and then her hair is pulled back sitting to eat. Are there 2 different time picture. Yes, Indigo, that's what I'm saying. The one that's on the screen right now, hun. I don't know if you're looking at the screen, but if you do, and you see my big head also in that same picture, that is a picture from a different time and a different date. And the TBI logo is circled because the TBI put that out originally as them at the Texas Roadhouse. That was a separate occasion. The other pictures, the other 5 pictures that are on the screen right now are from the actual night, the last time Sebastian was ever seen. That's Katie's actual outfit that she was wearing. That's the outfit that Sebastian wore the night that he went missing. Baby Yoda, Grogu, t-shirt. You know? And I've done a bunch of videos on it, Indigo, too. You know, showing the differences. When I saw the Texas Roadhouse video, I shit my pants because I knew what Katie was wearing. And I knew what her hair looked like. She wore it down, right? It looks really pretty. And in this other picture, she's got it up in a ponytail. And she's wearing a hoodie. Completely different. I mean, you know, we saw that picture a million times. And then we see the actual footage of the Texas Roadhouse and we realize that we've been duped by the TBI. Right? They're the ones that wanted us to believe this shit. They're the ones that wanted us to believe it. You know? So, you know, Katie seemed to do all that after Sebastian shook his head no to her, if I can remember correctly. You know, this was just still shots of weird little places where I saw Katie doing, you know, these gestures. Brenda, I'll have to go back and look because it's really in no particular order. But I think that's something that we may just kind of take a gander back over that. So yeah. And you know, it was hard because they were issuing all of that not really in order either. Yeah. When she says, I remember our parents smoking in the station wagon with the windows closed. Not daring us to say a word about it. I know. I remember like sometimes we just cough like, what are you guys doing? Those you're killing us. Yeah, you get in trouble. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and things are so much different. And I mean, thank God, you know. I believe she was too, Tina, and I feel very bad for Sebastian because, you know, they were telling Nerdy again, oh, he's got behavioral issues and all this. No, you guys have behavioral issues, you freaking jerks. Which he says, well, he rode in the cargo area in the back because backseat, then the seat belts were optional. Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Oh yeah, we used to pile in my friend's mom had a woody wagon. Well, we called it the woody wagon because it had like the wood, you know, and so we'd all pile in the woody wagon and go to the mall, you know. We get dropped off at the mall. So, oh, don't be sorry, Indigo. That's all right. I transpose numbers all the time. I have to be so careful when I'm reading numbers because I transpose them myself. Gina says, I get what you're saying now. They put up old photos shocking instead of the new ones. Isn't it crazy, Tina? I know, it's nuts. And that's what they did. And then on top of that, we got this little ditty, right? I blamed it on the TBI originally, but then when I looked closer, it's the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. And they took the picture of Sebastian. You guys will have to look at the screen if you're not for this one too. But he had the bruise on him in this Optimism t-shirt photo, and they covered it up with Have You Seen Me? Right? So they put a slogan over his face. You know, that was Duck Dynasty's handiwork. Way to go, Duck Dynasty. Way to fail the kids some more. CJ says, could AI possibly assist in reading lips? You know, if we had the full view of Katie, possibly. I don't know. AI is a little, I mean, man, it is creepy to me, but it's probably because I'm a nerd and I watch too much Doctor Who. But uh, I bet you it could. It may be able to assist. And, you know, it just depends. Um, it just depends. It would make me question some of the accuracy, I can't lie, but then again, it would be interesting. Tina says, with her face to the side the way it is, it might be hard to read her lips at all. I think so, Tina. I think we would have to have uh the camera angle differently, you know, focusing on Katie, the front of Katie's face, that is. That's why I thought she was asking him to recant his story to CPS about Chris, in my opinion. Brenda, I'm with you because the body language is telling, right? She's saying why, apparently, you know, because when we say why, you know, there's a certain stance that we give, right? Like we put our palm up in the air, why? Right? Sometimes we put both palms up, why? Right? And then when we're pointing at someone, I mean, that's universal as well. So those body language indicators are very noticeable for human beings to identify. Sebastian would be so much fun to hang out with. Aw, I know, isn't he a cutie pie? I mean, he's just as cute as he can be. And guys, let's not forget that somebody who's really not good at editing and should really not quit their day job did this little ditty right here, right? So they originally put a picture out of Sebastian, and then they wanted to hide a bruise on his neck, on the back of his neck, in my opinion. And in my opinion, by them doing that, it just shows that they're trying to hide what really happened. Right? And these are bruises on the back of his neck and on the front of his neck. So I can only imagine that somebody pinched the back of that kid's neck, in my opinion, which makes me sick at my stomach. And it looks like somebody hurt his throat or grabbed him by the throat in the Optimism t-shirt photo, ironically enough. TBI was also involved, you can see on this logo on this side, but Sumner County was the one that covered it up, right? So the original was a TBI photo that was put out, cropped in, of Sebastian. The other one in the Optimism t-shirt, they put a "Have you seen me" over the bruise. And look how young he is in the photo, Tina. I agree. He looks younger in my opinion as well. Yeah, they highlight it. I know. Holly, it's unbelievable. Hey, Holly, it's unbelievable. Yes, yes, witchy Star Trek. Exactly. When I think of AI, she says, I think of Data from Star Trek. It's kind of scary. It's like, what? You know? I've never believed that picture in the Optimism shirt was from The Weekend. He looks 2 years younger, in my opinion. I agree, Gail, and much happier, right? Much happier. Let's not forget that the school picture of Sebastian, he looks haunted, as our friend Freebird would say. He looks haunted in that photo. Do I have that photo? I do have it somewhere back here. Let me look, and I shall find it. Because it's a very good indication of how Sebastian was feeling on the morning that he took the photo at school. Here it is. This is his school photo in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. He's wearing his glasses. It's the one where Katie says that that's chocolate milk on his upper lip. Also, the picture taken the day before appears to be large bruise on his neck. I think she's snapping pics of that. They wouldn't have sent him to school bruised. Well, I think they would. I really think they would, CJC. And because remember when Chris Proudfoot said he told his teacher, I think he showed his teacher a bruise. Yeah, the bruise on his lip. Yeah, I don't know, Indigo. I'm leery of it too, but I think it's interesting. I might take it with about, 50%, 50/50. Because computers are, they're all just data spitting out, like what she said. It's just them spitting out data, They don't have any skin in the game. They're not running off emotions. It's all mathematical. Yeah, but that's his school picture, guys. It also appears that Sebastian has bruising on his eye. You can kind of see it when there's a closer view. But look at his eyes. He looks like he was not pleased that day. He looks like there may have even been a fight earlier that morning. Right? And God only knows, living with a psychopath like Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot. Look at her. She's got her butt sticking out like a creep. This is the same day that they had a vigil that Sebastian was given an award. He was presented with an award, even though he wasn't there. His father accepted the award for him. And his mother and Mr. Proudfoot were playing grab ass down at the bike shop wearing his t-shirts. Does anyone else need a barf bag? Because I have extra. It is absolutely disgusting. Put your butt back in, Katie. Put your butt back in. So, well, guys, I think that I'm going to cut this a little bit short, even though we don't usually do that. We end up talking true crime into the wee hours. But I do have a lot I want to work on and get out to you guys in terms of some of these interviews, especially the one with Sabrina. I want to play it out in its entirety and keep the integrity of the interview. And then I want to kind of, smash it up and mash it up with my interview. And we can see kind of some of the inconsistencies in statements or consistencies in statements. Those are always what we're looking for. Those are key. We don't get to see the body language, unfortunately. But that's okay. We will work with what we have. It was during the vigil, Witchy. It was during the vigil. Yep. All that sticking out that booty action. At the vigil, during the vigil. Yeah. It just makes me sick too, Tina. It makes me sick too. And go look for your missing son. That's right. You already know where he is. And that's what it comes down to. I was saying last night when Jen and I were on panel, Seth is exploring every option. So Seth wanted Jen to make a map also as if Sebastian didn't make it home. To me, that's telling me, that's a huge red flag to me that Seth is absolutely not sure that his son made it home, and he wants to explore every option. And it also screams to me that this man does not know where his son is and only wants to find him. Only wants to find him. Right? It's nauseating. Thank you, Holly, for the blue hearts. Thank you, Bo. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. The puke emojis. Bring out the puke emojis. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. You guys are awesome. It's haunting, Holly. It's haunting. That was like the best word. When Freebird said that in the chat the one night, I said, oh, that's it. That's it. And here it is again. And I didn't even realize I had it on this one too. But yeah, it's a very poignant picture, in my opinion, especially when we see this beautiful, bright smile, you know, that brings light and joy to us and warms our hearts. And then we see Sebastian in that picture, and it is sad. And it reminds me of when he was telling his dad, he called his dad and said, I need to look handsome for my school pictures tomorrow. And he was quite a bit younger. And this was right before he went missing. The last school picture that happened, this was the last school picture. Right there. Thank you guys for the green hearts. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Why would Seth take his own son, but yet he's dying to find him? I don't get it. No, Tina, and it isn't, it just doesn't make sense. It's not true, and it's horrible. It really is. But I'll tell you, you know, we're gonna keep on pushing, and everybody's pushing out there, guys. And that's another thing I wanted to say too is, you know, just everybody pushing together, everybody doing their part, everybody exhausting every option, everybody examining different avenues is how we can all do this together and work together. Same thing goes in Devlin Tate's case, and I just really appreciate you guys all being here and wanting to explore a very difficult topic with me. And we're going to continue to go down that route, even though it may be uncomfortable for some. I love you all very, very, very much. And I will see you all next time. I'm going to again try to get us a day show, and we might just review Sabrina's interview tomorrow if I can get it uploaded. We might do that on an early version. That way, you know, some of Devlin's family members, if they didn't want to come in on a late night, we can do that early. All right, you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Love you guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.